Now boarding for Rebuild of JoyCast, your weekly destination for anime, manga, and more.
The boys are back, and also with the girl. We are joined, as we threatened last week, we are joined by Steena. How's it going, Steena?
It is going so good. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it is a beautiful day. Yeah, it was. Even though we are in separate recording locales, Steena's actually here in the Ice Spider Valley with me, just in different rooms right now for recording, but she's visiting on vacation, and we're having a good-ass time. But we decided, well, while she's here, and we got the show today, we figured we'd bring her on. Steena, just, introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know who you are, because when we did Saturday Jump, you kind of just jumped right in, which was kind of the whole point of the show. But let everyone know who you are.
Yeah, so as mentioned, my name is Steena, and I have been doing stuff with JoyRide as voice talent for, 5 years, 6 years, I don't know. However long it's been a thing, but I recently started doing our social media management, among other things. And I'm also a writer. So currently I'm working on our flagship for our podcast arm. It's called These Backwards Echoes, and it's going to be a sci-fi piece.
Awesome. Do you want to... I'm not sure what's NDA'd and not, and what isn't. Are you allowed to speak on the premise of These Backwards Echoes? Because it's very interesting.
Yeah. So, I have this spiel memorized because I've recited it to 40 different actors over the past 3 weeks. So, These Backwards Echoes takes place in a world where humanity has electively decided to go extinct in the year 2075. There are some people that are understandably upset about this, including a high school girl named Everly Strauss. She decides that since there will be no one around to remember her when she dies, she will send messages to the past so she can be remembered retroactively there. But in the process of talking about what she thinks are just the normal day-to-day details of her everyday life, she unwittingly reveals some details about the extinction event itself that the elites did not intend to become public yet, so things just kind of unravel from there.
Yeah, they all electively decided to go extinct because they all read Yokohama Taidashi, like I did. They're like, you know what? The apocalypse, pretty sweet. All right.
Sounds lit. I'm in.
Speaking of manga and all that good stuff, Steve, just give the audience a couple recommendations. What's the stuff that you read and watch?
Oh, man. So, old school shoujo fan for sure, but I forced everyone to watch Zatch Bell with me. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Became a whole Joy Boy obsession. It was a great recommendation.
So good. But other than that, Violet Evergarden is probably my favorite anime. Right now, manga-wise, I'm reading Pluto, per your recommendation a few weeks ago. Thank you very much. And then additionally, From the Red Fog, which is a horror manga. I feel like when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of that available. But this came out of nowhere, and so far it's really wowed me. I'm really enjoying it.
Your favorite anime is Violet Evergarden and not Princess Tutu?
Oh, shit. Okay, Princess Tutu fucks pretty hard. You got a point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, it's tied. I love Princess Tutu. That's what got me into voice acting, man.
Damn right.
Just seeing Lucy Christian in the booth for that, she was alive, Ugh.
Yeah, and so when we last had you, it was on Saturday Jump, and this is back when we were doing Manga Rochambeau, and I decided, because this is the episode that Val was not on, and you were filling in for him, and I was like, you know what, Val didn't show up, he forfeits this Rochambeau, and you just, you make him read something, and you recommended him, what was it?
Hibiki's Magic. Manga I was really into in middle school, but had not touched since.
And you never added any context to why you recommended it. You just said, read Hibiki's Magic. And so while Val was reading it, I also took a peek, and I'm like, oh no, what the hell is this?
Yeah, so I recommended a manga that I read 2 volumes of in 2008. So, yeah, because I wasn't reading manga at the time at all. But it was one of 2 that stuck out to me. I almost recommended Plus Anima, which might have been better. Oh, dude, Plus Anima. Did you ever read Maximum Ride as a kid? So it's basically about these weird mutant children that have, like, animal traits. And they're kind of trying to, like, I mean, like, they're fighting for their freedom. Because they're, like, in circus sideshows and all this other stuff. And, as I remember it, it's an epic. This is another one I haven't read since, again, like, 2008, 2009. But that one I remember really enjoying.
I'm looking at a little Navajo-looking crow boy.
Yeah! Sweet little bean. I liked the mermaid boy, in spite of my immense fear of mermaids.
What's to be afraid about mermaids? They can't get you, Steena, unless you go in the water.
She saw the Animal Planet documentary about mermaids a real, and she thought it was real.
For years, I thought that aquatic ape theory was a credible scientific theory.
Oh my god.
It's embarrassing, but yeah, I mean, the idea is horrifying.
I'm literally an anthropologist, Steena. You can literally just talk to me about this shit.
I did, and that's when I found out it wasn't real.
Should have done it sooner. You shouldn't have held that for so long. That's a burden. To carry aquatic ape theory. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemies. That stupid ass
What was
theory.
that second manga you were saying? Something Ride?
Oh, no. So Maximum Ride is a novel series, but I think there might have been a manga that came out later. That is about a group of kids that have been, like, genetically engineered to have, and Ivan, this is why I wanted this so badly, wings. Not hand wings, like they had wings on their back. And so that's, like, they were being experimented on in a lab, and so it's about these kids that are, like, on the run, but also, you know, very conspicuous because they're part bird, pretty much. Very gritty, edgy. It's by James Patterson, so, you know, that says what it says.
It looks like Marvel made a comic about it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm pretty sure they adapted it at some point.
But they changed the name to Max Ride, and I just think Maximum Ride sounds like such a manga name.
Right? I'm like, why didn't you keep that? That would have been fucking dope. But yeah, it was a really good book. So when I found Plus Anima, I was like, this reminds me very much of Maximum Ride, and I am very down for that ride.
It looks pretty cool. I'm looking at this first. I thought it was a manga at first when I typed it in, because I was like, oh, this has a manga as fuck cover. But no, it's not. It's just a book. It's
right,
just a book,
right.
I don't like books. No, I
just a yucky book, but now it's in a comic, so you have no excuse not to check out the story, I guess.
No, true. I need to get more into, like, proper reading. I usually just listen to audiobooks, though. I'm terrible. Like
oh,
that.
yeah. Well, listen to that on audio. I mean, it's engaging.
I will.
Yeah, if you want to talk about something that we are all mutually reading right now, we hinted at this last week. Today we want to talk about Arakawa Hiromu, the mangaka for Full Metal Alchemist. She has a new series out called Yomi No Tsugai. I finally got a chance to read at this. Val and Steena have both been clamoring about this one for a while, so let's hash it out. I think we all have very different opinions on this one.
Probably.
Let's take it one chapter at a time, because my opinion on chapter 1 is radically different than it is from chapter 2.
I'll start then. I think that chapter 1...
Give us the premise. To tell me what you believe the premises of this thing is. I'm morbidly curious.
Okay. So, as far as I can tell, because I think it does a pretty good job of not, like, telling you everything about what's going on. 2 children are born, one born when the sun is up, and the other one born during the night. And I believe this screws up some kind of prophecy going on.
Yeah, they're twins. And one is born as, like, the sun's about to go down, and they're like, yo, you gotta hold that shit in. You can't have the other baby be born at night. And she's like, nah, man, I'm pooping this one out now.
Pretty much.
Then flash forward years. Fucking Ace's mom did it for, like, what, 10 months?
Holy shit.
She held it in for 2 years, actually.
For 2 years. If she can do it. Yeah, so then, years later, in a old mountain village... And this is where it starts to lose me immediately. we're just like, it's just Demon Slayer. It's a dude, his sister's cursed. She lives in a freaking prison.
20 months. Porcus D. Rouge held back giving birth to Ace for 20 months through sheer willpower, so the government could not connect
And we
the
stan
dots.
her. And we stan her. What a queen. But yes, go on, Val.
Anyway, yeah, so these two twins born different times of day, and this messes up some kind of backwards-ass prophecy or whatever that's going on in this village. And so years go by, and all we see is the boy who was assumedly born in the day, commenting on how a jet stream in the sky is like a pretty dragon fart.
Yeah, so that's the first thing. That's the first thing that's really interesting. Also a great first line, opening line. Otherwise, I don't fucking like this main character so far. But what a great opening line to say, oh, it looks like a dragon's fart. Which is just a testament to Hiromu's fucking humor. But that's the first fascinating aspect of the story. It takes place in what looks like an ancient Japanese mountain village. But you don't see the jet, but you see a jet stream in the sky, and you realize, okay, something's a little bit off. You're getting M. Night Shyamalan's The Village.
I hate that movie.
Actually, yeah,
It's divisive.
it's the same concept almost, it seems like.
Yeah. It actually is. No, you're actually right. I always forget about that movie, and then I think about the scene a lot where he goes over the fence and he's just on a road.
Right, but yeah, so that's basically what's kind of going on here, is this is a old ancient mystical village, but it's like its own little pocket. That's what they kind of reveal in the second chapter, is they're kind of in their own little pocket world that they can definitely see. They can see and access and walk in and out willingly. They just choose to be there into the modern world. So what happens is that, yeah, it's just this mystical village, and then suddenly helicopters arrive and fucking SWAT teams jump in and shit just pops off. Like this first chapter gives you like whiplash. Like it's kind of its hook. There really isn't much going on other than just the shock of this sudden
Beautifully
shift.
done panel, by the way. I love the clenched fist over everything, and then it opens up, and it's like a droplet comes down, and the air and everything just reverberates with force as suddenly choppers and, like you said, helicopters appear and shit.
Yeah, and Steena and I were discussing this last night. The fact that with the art, I mean this in the most I mean the most affectionate way. That whereas Oda on One Piece, his style is very distinct, but he's refined it to still fit in with modern manga. This manga still feels like it's straight out of like the early 2000s.
I love that though.
Yeah, exactly. Like it hasn't changed, but like in a good way.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
It's like opening up. It's like opening up a freaking like an aged wine.
Reading it, when all the choppers and the plane appears in the sky, when the reverberation happens and this like seal is kind of like unlocked on this town, like the first thing you see when all this happens is like a guy who looks exactly like Gene Havoc with a goatee gets his throat cut.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of like one of the moms looks just like the mom. All the characters look the same because this is the star system that certain characters do. A side note, Val, I got Steena started on watching Monster, the Naoki Urasawa story. That's also a banger anime. And he does that thing too, where it's the star system where characters look the same. Because Steena's reading Pluto right now, and she has remarked that a lot of characters in that look like characters from Pluto. And might be she thought people might be freaking robots at one point.
That detective, he's like, oh, I'm uploading this to the memory card in my brain, and I'm like, what the fuck? There's androids here too, and there's not, and that's a little disappointing because I feel adrift
How far
so
in
far.
that are you?
We're only in like 4 episodes.
Yeah, we just got started before we passed out last night.
He's like, it's not a medical drama, and I'm like, fucking how? How is it
I
not?
forgot it even was. I forgot it even was a medical drama to start.
So, have you met Astro yet?
In Pluto?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes, I
you
have.
know it's Astro Boy. You probably already knew it was Astro Boy anyway.
Yes, I recognized him immediately.
I already spoiled her on that, but yeah, she recognized him anyways.
I'm glad you're enjoying that. But no, I don't know how I feel about the star system when it comes to artists and everything.
It depends who it is. It generally is kind of confusing, but it can also be very fun when you're playing with people's expectations. Like I said, Steena thought a dude was an android because of this, which I thought was great.
I know that the old woman of the village, the chief or whoever she is basically, I believe it's an old woman at least, is basically the old woman in Ishval when Ed goes to explore the temple or the ruins of Xerxes in Full Metal Alchemist.
Yes.
Like, that's what she looks like, as far as I remember. But I think that's a testament as well to how, like, good her art is, that she makes such, like, memorable designs that I can, like, be like, oh, yes, this inconsequential character from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, or, you know, the manga and everything. Like, I look at this character, I'm like, yeah, I remember that design there. As if she wasn't, as if she was important or something.
Yeah, and then going back into it, so his village gets attacked, and a woman arrives. And she straight up says, no, I'm your real sister. That sister that you've been protecting, your Nezuko that you've been protecting in this village, that's a thing I need to... Also, this is what was really turning me off about this first chapter. It's all Demon Slayer. All these new manga are Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen. This is a combo of the both. Like, we're in this fucking yokai demon fighter fucking generation of manga, and I'm already getting sick of it. Whoops, all Demon Slayer it is. And I'm like, fuck. Even the main character, like I said, the main character gets this one really good line at the beginning about the dragon fart, and then proceeds to only be Tanjiro for the rest of the fucking chapter. He's a rustic provider, a proficient fighter, and very protective of his sister. He's just Tanjiro until proven otherwise. However, the next chapter does a better job afterwards. But this first chapter, it's just all the tropes I'm fucking sick of. And I'm like, oh my god, I really don't like this. But it gets
I actually agree with you on that. I was very much like, I'm not terribly impressed by this. I wasn't.
No, I'm not. I was getting very, very disappointed.
But I told myself going into this, Full Metal Alchemist was 10 years ago. I'm not going to compare the two. And I believe in Hiromu Arakawa enough to make a good, compelling story.
Yes.
And not compare it too much.
Bro.
Because that's what I told Steena. I was also felt the whiplash the first chapter. I said, you know what? I can trust this writer. I really can. And chapter 2, we start to see immediately more promise and more improvement. Just by a little bit of a mix-up. Because we said it was a demon fighter like Demon Slayer, but just a little addition to what appears to be, it looks like it's becoming a Mon fighter, actually.
See, and that's the thing that I think is turning me around on it, because, like, initially when we were talking about it last night, I was like, I don't know, the second chapter continues to throw so much at you that I don't have time to process, so I don't know if I'll like it or not, but then he was like, they're setting up for a Mon fighter. I'm like, oh... Well, I fuck
That's
with
what it
Mon
looks like
fighters.
they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Because at first I'm like, oh, this is like Demon Slayer with JoJo stands. But then it's like, no, these things have personalities. They talk. The main character gets 2 of them because he's special. Because he's the pro tag. But he gets
the girls with the hoodie that we neglected to mention it. There's a girl. There's this cute blonde girl with like a hoodie, and she just kind of goes gobble gobble. She just goes gobble, and people just fucking explode and get ripped asunder.
Yeah, so it feels like JoJo because no one can, because unless you have one, real people can't see these.
Unless they choose to let you see them, as the second chapter.
Yeah, Tsugai. Yeah, and that's the difference. This is what I like, is it's like JoJo stands, but they are very much alive. They have personalities. If they want you to see them, they'll reveal themselves. Which is very fun. And they have, and they're not just alive. They have personalities. They are characters. Although the ones that the main character has, he gets 2 of them. They seem to be based off the wind and the thunder god motif. But they have characteristics, and one's a big brawny goofball. The other one's a chick who's just a little bit more serious. They call each other the left and the right, babe. Even though a total babe. But whoever was translating these was like going by their left and right and getting very confusing. I'm like, no, they would be speaking from their own left and right. This is getting confusing now. But no, but they have personalities and they're really cool and they're really strong. And the main character goes, I don't fucking need you. And he pulls out his bow and arrow and he starts shooting people with it. And I'm like, okay, this guy's pretty cool. But what's very important though, and this is what I like, I said he's still Tanjiro until proven otherwise, but thankfully he's not Eren Yeager. This man does not have genocide on the brain. Because this woman comes in and destroys his village with these monsters that he's very much aware of now. And and I like Hiromu, I think, definitely makes this a point. Where those two, his two, they're called Tsugais. And they say, hey, master, want us to kick her ass? And he goes, no, I can kick her ass. You go rescue the living villagers.
Which is such a power move.
And he goes, you go rescue, defend, but do not kill. I'll take care of her. And I'm like, okay, we're getting the promises of definition here. He's not yet outside the Tanjiro trope, but I'm seeing it. I'm like, okay, here we go. It's coming together. But what I really like is that sister, that evil sister who arrives. She's also a fucking goofball. Even though she's evil and shit and killing people, so the girl who was quote unquote gobbling people up, the evil sister rescues her, and they're very kind and the villains. In the first chapter, they're just there as a force of nature. It's scary.
Quote unquote villains.
Yeah, exactly. In air quotes, they're very affable. They're very affectionate to each other. So again, in good classic Hiromu fashion, you're kind of getting at, is our protagonist even on the right side? Vibes. And I like that. I like that
because, as it turns out, the old woman that I mentioned has her own Tsugai, the shadow thing, and she has been using this shadow thing to replace the sister that has actually been missing for years and has been using it as emotional blackmail to stop the main character from leaving. Yuru.
Yes. Like, everything is a conceit. Like, basically, chapter 1 was all the tropes we hate, and then chapter 2, now it's a twist on all of it. Everything's a twist on it. Your Nezuko crutch is a weakness that's been exploited against you. Get rid of it. Your JoJo stands are not forces of nature. They are living, breathing things. They are characters that have personalities that we're going to grow to love. I that's pretty sick. The villains are really
excited
cool.
for the potential there.
But the best part is,
it opens up so much.
Yes, but it opens up because then immediately they leave the village and they go to the real world. Which now I go, and there's a part where these hikers are...
There's a beautiful dark-skinned woman waiting for them in a car.
Yes, but there's there's these hikers who definitely probably deliver the only like actual exposition in the entire like 2 chapters, where they discuss about the fact that they discuss how there are these like folklore villages that are rumored, that are like little pocket dimensions that people get lost in. So they're hinting at the fact that this story is going to bob and weave in and out of the modern real world and these fictional villages. Like, they're hinting that there's more of these villages. And I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool.
Well, that's the thing that people actually do. Like, I was going on little, like, walks around, Clent, which is, like, these hills that I live by, and me and my friend were talking about all the folklore that we have around those hills and everything.
Yes, yeah. Steena mentioned they are like, for us in America, these would be our Amish.
They're Japanese Amish.
They're removed, but with a more mystical sense. Like, you can't really access these unless you have like, you gotta know how to do it, which they won't explain, which I love. Thank you, subtext. Thank you, someone understands something. I like the fact that I get to I get a little time to chew on this now.
Which is good, because the release is so slow.
I get to savor the flavor of the story in my mouth for a bit. And I get to construct theories. I get to guess, like I said, they haven't said that they're gonna bob and weave in between multiple villages, but that feels hinted upon even when they were doing exposition. So, chapter 1, I'm like, I don't like this. Chapter 2, I'm all in, baby. I want more of this. Why does this have to be monthly? Other than the fact that Hiromu is vetted and she can go as long as she wants.
Would you say it compounds, or is the word compounds upon chapter 1?
Expounds.
Yeah.
We get more clarity. But it expounds without that much exposition. The characters are now just... There really is like little time to react in chapter 1. Chapter 2, we're finally getting a reaction, is what happens. And less exposition, more reaction. Saying, okay, this happened. Now, how the way these characters react to what's going on, that's how we discover who they are without them explaining every fucking detail. Which, hey, I gotta bring up my favorite whipping boy, Doron Dororon. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna check in. Because Golem Hearts gave me so much of a better view on this manga. I'm like, okay, this guy can be good if he tries. Let's see if he's trying. See if he's fixing anything. I go into I think it was chapter 6. I go into immediately, Val. They put up a fucking pie chart and then proceed to have text boxes explaining the pie chart.
Ew.
Which is just an encapsulation of what makes Dororon so fucking awful as a story. The fact that they don't know how to communicate the story visually. The fact that they actually present a visual graph and then proceed to explain it with text. What the fuck is this problem? Is it a joke now? Is he aware? Is he pissing me off on purpose?
He saw Saturday Jump and he was like, well, I like this guy, but I don't like this guy.
Because now it's fucking hilarious, because like there's literally a pie chart explaining the hierarchy of their system, which they've already explained in exposition, and then they add exposition to explain what a pie chart is and what PowerPoint is, and I'm just over it, man. Bring back Golem Hearts.
I did.
It was so much better.
Because I really fucking liked it. My favorite chapter was actually the training arc chapter, surprisingly.
It's Golem Hearts. It's fucking great. Audience, read Golem Hearts. You can find it online.
Wait, I'm uninitiated. What is... Back up. Tell me a little bit about this.
Okay, so this is how it started. Doron Dororon is the worst fucking shonen manga ever fucking
I'm sure
created
that's not
in the
true.
modern age. I know it's not, but to me it is. In my own little
it's mid.
insulated
It's
world,
mid.
it is.
Doron is basically
It's
just
mid, okay.
mid-encapsulated.
But Val goes, hey, that guy wrote something called Golem Hearts. And we looked at Golem Hearts before we knew it was that artist, that writer. And we're like, how the fuck did he go from Golem Hearts to this? But we did some investigation and realized that he released Golem Hearts at the same time that Demon Slayer, Promised Neverland, Dr. Stone, Jujutsu Kaisen all came out. Our man is traumatized, and this is why he's doing this.
I see.
Because he's like, all right, you didn't like my really cool, kind, fucking positive, fucking, like, light fantasy fucking adventure? Fine. Here's another fucking demon fighter, and it's all fucking text.
Cry
and
about
the main
it.
character is kindergartner Eren Yeager. It's fucking
I like him.
awful.
I like him.
I like him if I pretend he's the protagonist from Golem Hearts, because there are similarities. Because the one thing I like, again, because this thing is so on the nose, that's why I'm wondering if he's fucking with us. Steena, he literally saves a cat in the very beginning.
Oh, come on.
He literally saves the cat.
What the fuck?
Not only that, he saves... No, and what I find was really fucking clever, where I'm like, oh, I'm in on this. He saved a pregnant cat. Like, he lifts up the cat, and you see that its belly is swollen. So he saved multiple cats. And I'm like,
Fuck yeah.
that's fucking clever. That's visual storytelling. To prove how fucking virtuous your protagonist is without making them Jesus. He saves a cat, picks it up, oh, it's pregnant. You didn't just save one cat, you saved
like 10,
a whole
bro.
family of cats. And I'm like, that's fucking cool. Then he proceeds to explain everything about the world. And his character is very basic. It's another, I don't have powers, but I will sheer force of will because
bored of
our
that.
mangakas are getting so fucking... It's not clever anymore.
I would
No.
say
It used to
Force
be
of
clever,
Will's
but
it-
now it's not clever because now it's just the fact that they don't want to do a magic system anymore. I don't blame them. Magic systems are fucking awful, but my
Nightmare.
god, if you're going to have magic and mysticism, but your character isn't, it better be Mashal or it better be fucking Black. Dare I say Black
In my own
Clover?
writing that I'm doing, I've basically just gone with impactful, very short fights.
Yeah, because,
They
I
have
mean,
nothing
One
to do with,
Piece.
like fighting. I just like brawls. I was looking at Tepu again, and I was like, yeah, fucking
Yeah.
Tepu.
Oh, Tapu. Again, just short and impactful. Just get this, make a splash page and move the fuck on. The other side of the argument, even though I said it does trail on, Vigilantes. My Hero Academia Vigilantes does a great job of storyboarding and planning out, like, you know the exact points of that city that they are fighting on and exploring. Like, that's where you make a fight go ongoing, when you have good geography in your world. And you can move it, and you can discuss dialogue and expound while you're fighting. Go ahead and have an ongoing fight. But if you're just gonna fight, and nothing's happening, just get a splash page and move on.
We'll
Save
get
the ink.
into Vigilantes in a bit, but Vigilantes annoyed me a bit, and it's all one for alls fault. Wait, no, All for One's fault.
All for One, yeah. I mean, we're in the same sound mind about All for One. We're tired of
Also,
him.
but back to Yomi no Tsugai. I think we can all agree. Probably the best bit is that moment where the villains like chill out, and as you said, they're actually rather sweet characters, and the character like shows them mercy. They like explain that, hey, you have a counterfeit younger sister and everything, and this kind of crushes the main character. Also, I want to say I actually really like the guy who I assume was just going to be a throwaway shop character who died, and it turns out he's like a monumental badass.
Yeah. Oh, like he knows everything. Like he's our guide. He's our mentor.
And I'm actually looking forward to getting to know him. But I actually think the characterization in Chapter 2 was really strong. Like as you said, the main character doing things like telling his Tsugais, do what you want. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm going to request to you. And the big guys are like, oh, yo, I like stoked. This dude. He has fucking manners. Hell yeah. No, all that.
That makes me worried, though. I'm like, oh no, these are not good creatures. But that's just my gut feeling.
And he goes off and does what he tells them. He's like, oh, if you can, go save people. Don't kill anyone. He's like, okay, I'll do that because you didn't tell me to do it. You requested it. And the woman just helps him fight. She doesn't actually do the fighting. She doesn't like hit the girl. She just makes sure that the mouth thing can't defend her.
It's subdued, yeah. So he has space.
He has clear shots, which is actually really cool.
They've already got good synergy.
Yeah, she doesn't do anything to hurt. She simply makes sure that the way is clear for him to do these things.
And it's believable because they do mention that they've been watching over him and just waiting for this moment to come. So he doesn't quite know them, but they know him. So this is believable. That synergy is believable.
Wonder, though, what they feel towards him in any way.
Yes. I'm like, I'm excited. I want to see that. This is the promise of more.
I want to see if they respect
good
him,
setup.
Honestly. I mean, it seems like they will so far.
They seem to adore him. The dude seems to adore him. Which I like.
Yeah, the woman seems ambivalent to him so far, or like she just does it because it's her duty.
Just too cool.
I hope she hates him.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
excited to see drama.
You're right. But going back, because you mentioned that moment where the villains, she breaks down and cries and goes, thank God my brother is alive. And now I'm like, all right, your villain has stakes that I like. Your villain has motivations that are very interesting and
makes you wonder exactly what you said. Is the character on the good side? Is the village good? Maybe not, because evidently she's...
Maybe not. Maybe they're both bad. Maybe they're both good. Who knows? It's good to theorize now.
Because she's obviously worried he must have been in some kind of danger.
If this was Doron, they would explain each faction already in paragraphs. On a fucking
I'm really
manga.
looking forward to Yomi Tsugai. I literally told myself.
I am too.
Steena, you said like preach basically. You had the same thought. Do not compare it to Full Metal Alchemist.
I mean, so yes.
Yeah, please don't.
I thought about. So I had this theory initially where I was like, I bet they're in the same world. Just because of that episode at the end of Brotherhood where Hohenheim is like fucking around in World War II. In a place where alchemy doesn't exist. I think that theory makes less sense.
That's 2003.
2003?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the first one.
Yeah,
okay.
that is all filler, although I actually stand by 2003.
Technically all filler, yes.
I stand by 2003 as actually having a lot of its own merits.
Ah, well, we're all wrong
No,
sometimes.
it's good. It's good shit, actually. The greed fight in 2003 is actually some of the best shit in Full Metal Alchemist.
I just felt like like the pacing, it showed that it was ahead of the manga, you know, which I guess is inevitable, but it's like, I don't think that any of the filler really added anything for me personally.
Okay, I'll say this. It'll be very quick. I like the fact that in 2003, they make a really big point of not giving Ed pretty much anything he wants, because, like I said, my favorite bit in 2003 is Greed's fight with Ed, where Greed knows he's basically at the end of the line, where he's been really weakened by the main antagonist, who turns out to have made him and has his corpse, basically, which weakens homunculi in 2003. I actually really like the aspect of homunculi being made of people that someone tried to use a human transmutation on, which is why I think the stakes with Ed and Al and Sloth and everything are really good.
Yeah.
As well as with Wrath, Izumi's son, even though I find him to be annoying, and
Oh,
his
I love
relationship
him.
with Sloth, and how he wants to take everything from Ed. Ergo, not only does he have Ed's arm and his leg, but he's also taken Sloth as his adoptive mother. So he has literally taken Ed's mom and shit. But Greed's at the end of the line. He is dying. He knows he is dying, so he uses his last bit of life to teach Ed the lesson of, you have to kill them or they will kill you, and I'm going to be the sacrificial lamb that makes you nut the fuck up and put these people down. He makes Ed kill him, and Ed literally falls down on his knees. He's like, Greed, no! I can't kill you! Not because he couldn't, but because he doesn't want to believe that he did it. When Greed's like, I didn't touch you, brother. I just wanted to teach you a lesson that you have to fucking stop these guys.
Jesus.
It is so good.
You could have
some of
just
my
told me that,
Seriously,
bro.
Rewatch
Shit.
2003.
I'm
It's
inclined
so
to,
fucking
man.
Good. Dude, 2003 is so goddamn good. In its own way. There's shit like Scar and his arm, like, absorbing information from a book that is just like, what? Because alchemy in that show is like the weakest aspect. It's more magic than anything. It's not consistent, and that's like the biggest issue.
Yeah.
But story-wise, I really would say people need to lay the fuck off of 2003.
I think so too, because I've seen some metal
I
shit
won't,
in there.
but that's okay.
Like the only
Anyway.
only thing I recall from the old one was the fight with the Fear of Bradley at the end, when he burns the skull.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't think by any means it's a bad anime. I just don't think that it's as good as Brotherhood. Like, that's my take, you know?
Because Brotherhood just like fucking like full on huge ass budget, follows faithfully to the original series, like, and the performances are fucking incredible.
If you watch 2003, you will see some animation in that. Like I said, the Greed fight is...
Yeah, I said that the Fury Bradley fight. Yeah, oh yeah, the
yeah.
animation in 2003 is fucking metal because that's back
that
when
was
that was the
hand-drawn.
classic.
It was on paper, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, black paper
Yeah,
animation.
and,
I'm a sucker
like,
for it.
In fact, that scene encapsulates, the Greed fight encapsulates what I love about really short, impactful fights, where it's like this crazy choreography going on, and it goes by like that. Like, you might be disappointed at first that it's such a short fight, because I was talking to my friend Del the other day about fights and stuff, like in the new Attack on Titan. He was saying how in the new season, a certain fight, I'm not going to say because it's just come out, is very disjointed, and it cuts back and forth a lot to it. So it feels really choppy and whatnot, but that's what I like about...
Are you talking about are you talking about Attack on Titan Final Part
Yes.
2? Okay, so we want to bring that up real quick. Have you been watching that actively?
I haven't watched it yet. I read the manga.
Okay, I would say I read the manga too, and I'm kind of iffy on this because this is where my eyes started glazing in the manga. Was this around this part, but there's still some interesting bits, and so it's cool to see it in motion. People are fucking bitching like really hardcore about the animation. I'm like, what's the fucking problem? Because one thing I want to mention is the Titans themselves. So it was an inevitability that these had to become CG. Okay, you just have to. It's a human rights violation.
It's a reason
to
why
animate all
Wit
that.
stopped. Wit
Yeah.
put so much effort into Attack on Titan. I don't blame them when after season...
They had
I want to say
to.
season 3, they were like, yeah, no, the expectation is too high. We're done here.
It was going to
And then
sink
they made
their
those summer
studio.
rankings, my favorite anime of the year.
Yes. That's what we'll be talking about 2 weeks from now after
I
hiatus.
know,
When we're
I'm
talking
so
about
excited.
animes of the year because Crunchyroll Awards nominees are already up right now, but we're going to put a pin in that discussion. Yeah, I want to mention that I never had a problem with the CG. It's uncanny. You have to get over it because I'd rather my animators not be killing themselves at the end of the day. But whoever decided to put this sketchy filter over the CG for this part 2 season deserves a fucking raise. Because this is the best CG has ever looked in an anime. Like, it fits in. It's still uncanny, but for once, it actually feels like a part of the foreground and the background. Like, the lines look a little incomplete around the silhouettes of the Titans. They've got a paper texture on them now. I don't know how they did it, but it's really fucking cool. I wish we knew animators, Val. I wish, We know Jax.
I do know
Would
anime.
Jax know what the fuck's
no,
going
I think
on?
You have met Jack. Yeah, you have met Jack.
I met him once, but like just a bunch. I wish we knew more animators who like across the board, traditional
He
and
actually could
CG,
tell you probably
who understand what's going on here, because this is really cool. And anyone who has a problem with it needs to grow the fuck up. These are the same people who don't like squash and stretch, and they need to go fucking take a class or something, because this is cool, and I'm very happy with it. But otherwise, there isn't much to say right now, because I'm not sure how many episodes. They haven't revealed how many episodes.
I'm not going to justify the bitching, but I understand it when you had Wit going so freaking hard back in like 2013.
I think Mappa's doing a perfectly fine
that's why
job.
I said I'm not going to justify it, but it's like One Punch Man season 2. Remember, we had a discussion about this at one point when season 2
Now
of
that's
One Punch
something
Man
worth
came out.
bitching
Yeah,
about.
but Bones.
They fucked up the Infinipede,
yes,
man.
Yes, they did actually. Bones did like the manga for that was
Big
so
time,
good.
they did.
How like the centipede is so big, it is stretching across panels, pages even, and as you turn the page,
no, multiple chapters. It's still dying across chapters. You see different. You see like there's a fight. There's a giant like citywide fight going on, and throughout like an arc, you see different perspectives of Saitama. Like Saitama punches the thing, and then throughout like 10 chapters, we see that the centipede is still in the process of dying. Like, he hits it in the face, and then it starts going down its segments all the way to the end. And it's so fucking
That sounds metal. I gotta read this shit.
That in multiple chapters, you see him across the skyline. You see the thing still exploding. And it's fucking hilarious. And the fucking anime was like, JC Staff's like, nope, we do this in one foul swoop. Boom, it's gone. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it's CG in a bad way. Again, I understand the point of CGing it, but you gotta actually do something with it. Because they barely even animated the fucking thing.
Lazy.
Well, not lazy, there's no funding. I would never call any animators lazy. They just don't have fucking time or money.
That's a bummer.
That's a discussion we need to have sometime, is the fact that there is a ridiculous labor shortage right now in anime. It's actually terrifying.
True.
The business is booming, but the industry is struggling right now.
The only thing I would say is actually so disappointing in terms of animation is I know. Okay, has anyone watched Way of the House Husband yet?
No, but I really want to. It's like next on my watch list.
Way of the House Husband is funny. Way of the House Husband is funny, but the mangaka actually apparently said, you know me, I don't like to quote anyone by any means, but the mangaka actually said to Netflix, don't animate it. It's funnier if it's like as still as possible with little bits of animation.
A motion manga, which they're like, yeah, thanks, we can make it cheaper. And I do believe it is a motion manga.
It is basically, but not only is it a motion manga and it's basically still, I have seen bits where the characters are like really badly drawn from angles, like they've just got the anatomy wrong on some bits, or this angle, and I'm like,
it's just really bad. It reminds me of the fucking, remember the one with the Yakuza that get turned into pop idols?
What?
I do, that was funny. I will say it. That was funny for one episode.
That wasn't even funny for the first episode. That whole fucking series was mean-spirited and gross.
It's a dark humor, and I don't mind that stuff, but I only found it funny for like one episode, and I was like, this joke has already run its course, to be honest.
And I just don't like, all power to you for making motion manga, but like, don't make it look, like, don't redraw the frames like terribly. Just trace it.
That's what I mean though. Way of the House Husband has one scene I've seen where the wife, for some reason, I don't know why, I saw it out of context on YouTube, turns into a magical girl. Because I watched like 2 episodes of Way of the House Husband, and I watched it with my mom, and she was the first like, why are you putting on anime? And now my mom's been watching like Cowboy Bebop.
Badass.
Yeah, no,
Nice.
I've ruined my mother. She's watching Cowboy Bebop. She's watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I walk in sometimes while she's like while she's doing nothing. I'll sometimes just walk in and I'll like put something random on, and then I'll come back, and if she's still watching it, like actually invest. I'm like, Jesus. She's
kind of adorable. I love that.
It is. My mom is lovely and adorable. She's watching part 2, and I think she really likes Joseph.
I mean, who doesn't?
But she's sad that Jonathan died. I was explaining to her, hey, Mom, when I was 12 years old and I got that laptop, I was reading JoJo, and I got fucking pissed off, and I vowed to myself, I will not read part 2. How dare they kill Jonathan? And then the manga came out, and I fell in love with Joseph. I got so angry. But what else she's watching Space Dandy even. I showed her Red Line.
Oh, yeah, she's just watching all the shit that you watch.
Yeah.
Kind of.
You
but
recommended
she's
it to her.
really no, she watches her own stuff actually. She watched Hellsing. I still haven't watched all of Hellsing Ultimate.
It's on now.
My mom loves
She is
vampires. If there's vampires involved, she's like really into it. I showed her Blood Sea. I watch new stuff with her. We watch Blood Sea and stuff like that.
That's fucking cool. I tried with my mom. I tried to get her into Cowboy Bebop and Vinland Saga, but it just wasn't taking hold.
I tried with my mom, and then my little brothers tried with my mom, and it stuck the second time around. So she's deep into like My Hero Academia, and then she watched Ouran High School Host Club with them, and she's like, I love Tamaki. He's so cute. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right. So they got me rewatching it. But yeah, anime moms, dude.
Anime moms.
I think my mom's like me. My mom likes pulpy stuff. Like my mom, I remember I'd be I'd go into the kitchen, and she'd just be watching like loads of really obscure horror films.
Oh no, my mom's a soft bean.
Probably Giallo
My
stuff.
mom's like, you know what? It makes sense. I think I've told you this story before, but when I was a child, like when I was like, I don't know, after my dad left or something like that, so I was pretty young still. My mom would sit with me and watch fucking Guyver, like the old VHS, like really pulpy Guyver, and that probably did just completely like set my tastes in from there. Like really, that there was an episode of that, episode 5, where the Guyver gets his like head exploded or something by this horrible centipede bear monster, and he's like screaming for the other Guyver eunuch to come and help him and everything, and he doesn't, and he fucking dies or gets so fucked up until the next episode, which I didn't have. So I was just like, that's it, the Guyver dies. Heroes don't always win.
What a realization, man.
Yeah.
Tragedy?
For a long time. So
in my 2022?
So it really makes sense that my mom does like anime, but she for a while she was like, God, you're such a nerd, you're watching anime, and then I was like, you set me down this path, you bitch.
You did this.
Your genes, they were your genes that
Strong
attracted this
nerd
shit.
genes.
Pretty much.
But speaking of
Yes.
heroes, I think it's about high time we got to our obligatory My Hero discussion, because I think for once there's definitely something worth discussing.
Actually.
Chapter 341. I very much like this chapter. I thought it didn't give us what we thought we were getting. We thought we were getting more check-in with like Shinso, but instead they're like, no, let's check in on Toga and Dabi and Spinner. In a very somber chapter. I actually really dug this. It once again, because I'm currently writing for the My Villain arc in the Abridged series, and this one kind of like resettled into some themes about where all the original League of Villains members' headspaces are at. Like Dabi's still like, I want the world to burn. Like, let's get the premise of the chapter. Toga visits. She goes to this abandoned neighborhood where it's her old childhood home, and she kind of thinks about her time as a child, about how her parents were just creeped out about her, and how she used to fantasize about biting her own blood, which I think is just a metaphor for her like loving herself. And I thought was very fucking clever. And I really like that Dabi hands her a blood vial from Twice and goes, I know your quirk only where you not only can you be people, your quirk allows you to transform into people, but also if you care deeply enough about a person, you also get to use their quirk. And he puts Sad Man's Parade back on the table, which I'm like, yo, okay, fuck Shiggy, but the fact that Sad Man's Parade is back for one-time use, let's go. That's scary. I am now threatened once again by the League of Villains. But with Toga.
Yes.
But what I like about this is that Toga's quirk, the way that Dabi has described it now, is a loophole for her redemption. We now know that even in her fucked up psychotic way, Toga does care about people. She can't use a quirk unless she cares about that person. She used Ochako's quirk. She's gonna be able to use Twice's quirk. So we're seeing that even, and on top of that, Spinner is not being called upon by the Paranormal Liberation Army to stand up and speak and rally them. And he's like, I don't think I can do this. And he still has one of Shiggy's old hands, and he goes, but I would do it for Shiggy. And I'm like, I really like how subtly we're being set up that we are on like the cliff edge of a point of no return for these characters. And I like the way it's being set up that these characters are not going to be redeemed. They're not going to be heroes. But I think they're actually going to be the ones to save Shigaraki. And maybe do a little bit of sabotage in the end game. In just little subtle ways. They're going to be the little cracks in the armor for the League of Villains. And they're not going to redeem themselves to society, but they are going to, like, ever so subtly, slightly redeem themselves only in the eyes of the audience. And I think that's fair. I think that's more than enough. And I really like that. I think we're going to get our cake and eat it too right now with these villain characters. So I'm excited. I like the promise of this chapter. I agree that the villain
characters are going to be a lot more interesting in the finale of this story than any of the heroes are probably going to be.
Yeah, at this rate, abso-fucking-lutely. That's why I really like this chapter, because I'm like, oh, some interesting characters. Okay. Also, Shiggy seems to be transforming into a fucking creature.
Yeah, I also want to say a highlight for this chapter for me, definitely the bit where Darby sets the house on fire. That looks so good.
That looks so... I mean, that whole chapter looked really fucking good.
The way that it was so dark and grainy.
It was so dark. Like I said, it was so somber and sad. It was so empty and sad, and Toga's just wandering through the house, and you see she's like trying to maintain a smile, and they're just like, and Dobby's just like parkouring through the neighborhood. They have this whole world to themselves, and he's just like, yeah, just burn it all, and when he does burn her house, you see she's a little bit upset, but she thanks him. She goes, thanks, I hated that place. But at the same time, you see a sense of attachment, which clues you in that she's not all in on this end the world plan. And I like this. Everything that's going on this chapter is masterful. This is Horikoshi at his best, right? He's always at his best with these fucking villains. He really is. Horikoshi broke the mold on himself when he perfected the League of Villains in My Villain Academia arc. And we're getting more of that again, and I just can't wait for the anime to fuck it up.
Unless
skip this scene. They'll never make that movie, Val. They can't even make the anime. So then sure as fucking
No, I mean unless they make another movie during an arc.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Wouldn't that be the ideal though? A My Villain movie? Oh my gosh. One can only hope.
Ivan, you know how I feel. You know how I feel about canonical movies. It's all I want.
Yes, and because that works so well for Demon Slayer.
By the way, I found out recently. Apparently, Demon Slayer, because I don't watch it.
I don't either. I feel bad.
Typical shonen, and that's not a bad thing.
Yes. I forgot. I remember why I dropped it, because Chandro's Jesus. That's why I dropped it. Because he's got the special genetic line.
I did see a guy that I really like. He's got like white hair and he wears all these fucking bandana things on him that I really love, and like beads and braids and everything like that. And he has 3 wives. I'm like, I like this guy. I fuck with this guy.
All the characters are good. Hey, we gotta fucking mention Demon Slayer has really good characters. Really good characters. Everyone's very likable in Demon Slayer. It deserves the hype. It really does. It's basic. But because we turned it's like the Frozen of anime. Like, it's quality, but something better is on the horizon. It's called Encanto. We're waiting for anime and mangas Encanto right now.
Hell yeah.
Like, we have something good, but this is the start of something even better on the horizon. Oh, just kidding! It already exists. It's called Chainsaw Man.
I just want a movie, like a bit. Like, this is why I don't care about Disney anymore. I don't even watch like Pixar movies really, except for Luca. Luca was actually like,
yeah, because Luca slaps.
That was great.
Luca did slap.
Babe, no. Here's the thing. I like these ones that are coming exclusively to Disney Plus. These very like slice of life Pixar's. They have Pixar seems to have 2 modes. Like how Disney has 2 modes. They have princess movie, and then it's either action for the boys or just all around family picture, like your Big Hero 6s and Wreck-It Ralphs. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have your Moana, Frozen, and Kanto. Pixar has now developed their 2 modes. We have these they're very boring abstract films like Soul and Inside Out. Hot take, I despise these films. But on the other side of the spectrum, now Pixar is doing these very, I don't want to call them Ghibli-esque, but they're very slice of life. They just did Luca, which was amazing, and now they have Seeing Red, which also, Seeing Red also looks very fucking fun. And simple. They're just very simple, and they're fun, and they're very well animated, because they're very stylized, and I like them. It's less fidelity and more style and color.
Is it strange that I no longer care how well animated a Disney or a Pixar movie is? I just want it to actually be more visually interesting than they usually are.
I get. So there's a difference, Val. You don't, as like me, you don't care for fidelity. That means detail. People who want fidelity, they're the people who are bitching about the tree textures in Pokemon games when they need to be bitching about the quality of the
to be
gameplay.
fair, Game Freak is one of the Pokemon is one of the biggest franchises of all time. You'd think they can get their trees right at least, but no, I carry on, please.
Yeah. But they're still fun, and no spoilers. What I've been told about what's been leaked about Legends Arceus, this looks like to be a pretty good game. But seems to be fixing a lot. Like I said, doesn't look good, but the gameplay seems to be very solid. But like, let's go back to Pixar. As I mentioned, because we and Steena and the gang watched Luca together, and we all remarked that they have squash and stretch, and they have multiple limbs when moving in like really fast. It's very stylized. It looks like paper on computer. It's really good. I really like it, and that breed of Pixar, I am all in on. And that's how I also feel about anime. That's why we briefly discussed in our introductory when we revamped the podcast, where I like Ranking of Kings and Odd Taxi. I don't care for fidelity and muscle detail and the irises that you see in Attack on Titan. I want things to move good. I like it in motion. I like color and style. I want something that's very visually pleasing.
Gave us both.
I don't care about 60 frames per second.
I honestly dropped Attack on Titan because I didn't like the way it looked.
I think Attack on Titan's very impressive. I do like it.
No. Don't get me wrong. It's impressive, but it doesn't, like, looking at it visually, I'm like, this is undoubtedly a technically skilled animator or team of animators.
Yes.
But for me, like, I like things that are more stylized, so it didn't, like, excite me visually.
Exactly. Yeah, I would agree. The animation, the movement is good, but visually, it's novelty. It's stunning until you grow very weird very quickly because it's not.
It's dark and it makes me sad.
It's dirty, which is the point. That's the point of
dirty.
it. But and then that's really just boils down to
That's
taste.
why I like Chainsaw Man.
Oh, Chainsaw Man,
Chainsaw
I still
Man
fuck
doesn't have
with.
heavy fidelity.
Here's the thing. Again, I must keep asserting that anything you've seen right now should not be reflective of what the animation of Chainsaw Man is. Everything we've seen is definitely test footage. There's no way it's actually going to actively look like that. If it does, holy fuck, but I don't see it that way. But, oh my god. Yeah, get ready. Like, the crew you're seeing right now, audience, you're listening to right now, audience, me, Steen, and Val, when Chainsaw Man comes out, we are becoming like a Chainsaw Man podcast. We are going like weekly on that because we love. I'm already reread. I need to get my hands on the colored pages.
Chainsaw Man is so expensive to buy physically in England, by the way. It's like 15.
I bet.
It's like 15 quid a fucking volume. Sorry.
Wow, I was gonna say per chapter, you're gonna never retire.
It's like,
about.
it is like 50. I looked. It was like at least £12 to £15 for a regular paperback. Usually that's like, I don't know. It was like 15 or something. £15.
Wow. No,
Yeah,
that's
and here's the thing.
outrageous.
I
What
have
the
Welcome
hell?
to the NHK, one of my favorite manga.
I have a lot of issues with NHK.
Ivan has feelings about that too. If you go back and watch Saturday Jump, I love
Saturday Jump, available on JoyRide
But
Plus.
you love Suicide Island.
I do love the Suicide Island arc. I think that chapter is a lot of good storytelling, like Urasawa level storytelling, where it's a lot of reveals and unraveling. You go, oh my god, we're doing this. It's very funny it's a black comedy, but it's
point is though, I have Welcome to the NHK in manga. It is super black. It's got like the character going through loads of like crazy things that are like deplorable that make you like hate him.
He's a very selfish character, and the first time he really goes out of his way to help someone, he winds up stuck in a suicide pact and he's trying to prevent another friend from getting suicide, and he ends up becoming suicidal in the process. He ends up by helping someone else, he depresses himself, but it's framed very funny. In a way where you don't feel like anyone's actually going to die. You're like, okay, everyone's making out of this. Because they rescue him. All the people on the island rescue him, and it's a very fun, touching
Not only, though, does he think that he is helping them, his friend, but he also thinks he's helping himself by perhaps, like, going to this and maybe opening up more of a relationship with this person and helping each other.
Yes!
Aw, that's nice.
It's really nice, but it's a very... Otherwise, the fucking whole story is fucking shit.
No, it isn't.
But that arc is great.
Whoa,
it's good.
Whoa. You've hurt Val personally.
You didn't get to the Final Fantasy 11 bit. Where
no,
his friend
I don't want
catfishes him to stop him from wasting his time on online games by pretending to be a cute cat girl.
Hell yeah, that's a bro.
Oh my
right
god.
there.
Anyway, though, I have Welcome to the NHK physical
Your real
manga
bros would
copies,
catfish
and that's
you.
from like that American manga company. God, the one with the little Pac-Man spaceman on the side. God damn it, I can't remember the name of the company, but that was like £20 a paperback. You know, a regular ass paperback. It was like 20 to 40 quid a paperback. I bought one for 40 quid because I wanted to own it so fucking badly. So Chainsaw Man being a relatively new thing.
Dude, I've seen those Berserk fucking hardcovers. They look fucking badass. I've never want to own manga until I see that.
My friend is currently collecting those. But that's fucking expensive for a relatively new manga that is Chainsaw Man.
Wait, because they're selling Chainsaw Man at a premium because they know people will buy it.
It's worth it. I mean, not to me, but
it's not like My Hero Academia where it's the accessibility. Like Chainsaw Man is like top shelf manga. Like if I had like a basement, like a wine cellar for manga, that's Chainsaw Man's at the top of the shelf. Like you bring that out for your closest friends.
I fetch the Chainsaw Man, circa 2019, please.
Yeah. Oh baby, it's not even that. I can't believe it's not even that old.
right?
I mean, it feels like a classic already. It feels like Chainsaw Man's like this old obscure anime that was like 10 years in the making.
I was hyping that shit up from day one.
It's not over, right?
No.
Like it's just on hiatus, right?
It's just on hiatus. That's the fucked up thing. It's just on hiatus. Even though it tells a fulfilling story.
I'm so wounded right now. Like I just want it to come back.
I know you said, by the way, about Spinner and the My Hero thing, but I feel like he's actually being more propped up to be like just a hollow-ass figurehead. Basically.
Well, that's what the League of Villains is making him out to be. But I think he's gonna stand up in the end and be like, "Hey," like I think like he's going to turn everything around. Also, I like the terms that are being used. I'm getting the satirist in me. Again, I think Horikoshi does some great satire. Whenever the League of Villains gets involved. When the Paranormal Liberation Army gets involved. He brings up a term this week called heteromorph. And I'm like, ooh, I like this term. Explaining, that's their term for people who aren't mutants. You heteromorphs. And I'm like, ooh. I'm like, that
Spicy.
bites. There's some spice there. I like that they have slurs for each other. I like where this is going. Makes it a more livable world, a more believable world, because this definitely would happen. Our version of quirkies and non-quirkies.
I think we can all agree it was an overall pretty fucking good chapter.
This was an amazing chapter. I loved it. Chef's kiss. So now moving on to Vigilantes. About this villain things, because Val, you mentioned that you were kind of sick of all for one's shit. Which I'm like, I thought we already were. I thought we were on sound
I was
of this.
very sick of him because I was pissed off because he has literally explained. Chapter starts, Koichi lets off this fucking amazing punch that completely devastates the shit out of number 6.
Chapter 118, by the way, everyone. Chapter 118.
Chapter 118. And All For One has been watching the fight for a while now. In fact, we know this now, that he has been around the entire time pretending to be Overclock.
He has rooted himself inside Overclock's subconscious. Again, a nice little connection to the main line where All For One has talked about the fact that shades of people's personalities exist within the quirk. So whatever piece of the quirk that All For One resides in, like basically he took Overclock and then gave Overclock to Six. The villain that Koichi's fighting right now. And because he touched it, a piece of his personality is also in there right now, observing. It's really cool. But I'm still sick of All For One.
It's kind of cool. But let me say it because I wanted to say it. I wanted to bring it up. So now, basically, the fight has begun again in 180.
It never stopped.
And this motherfucker has done exactly what we hate in the mainline series, where it's like explaining things. And I feel like Vigilantes doesn't feel the need to explain things to a ludicrous degree that often.
It's less that he's explaining things.
He's
definitely explaining, but like
the entirety of what we have been through and seen of Koichi, that his power is, not actually that impressive, but he has developed it and like turned it into like this thing with like these.
I've interpreted this as you theorized. I interpreted this as him lusting over it. I think All For One has got a hard on for this quirk now. He's like, you were kind of dumpy in high school. What's the quirk called? Slide. You're kind of dumpy in high school. Like, All For One basically says, be careful what quirk you call ugly in high school, because this quirk is now really sexy. And you mentioned that you think that All For One might take this in the end.
Did I say that?
Which I'm like, well, we haven't seen it. Now. Yeah, at one point you did say, and I'm like, maybe. I still don't see it, but I definitely starting to see a little bit. He definitely likes it now. That's for certain. But what I loved about this chapter is the flashback. Yes. The fact that going back again, we're ending where we started, where Koichi talks about the guy. He's not a guy who can read the room. He's a little Aspergery, and I like this about him. Where there are kids playing Hero on the playground, and he's always the last one playing. Like, he forgets all the kids already left, and he's still playing Hero. And he turns, he hits the playground, he turns, he goes, oh, everyone already left. And he's having this moment right now, where there's two parallel frames, where you see him floating in the air, smiling, reminiscing about, oh my gosh, even though I'm in so much pain, I'm having so much fun. And you see Pop and Knuckle Duster behind him. And I remarked in the previous chapters, like, I thought this moment had already passed. I didn't like the fact that they keep extending this final moment with them in his psyche. But here, they gave it a purpose. Because you see a frame with them behind him, and then he goes, but at some point, the dream has to end. We see the same shot, it's darker, and they are no longer behind him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, they are shutting off the lights right in front of us right now. They are shutting down this carnival ride of a series, and I'm getting so fucking sad. But what a great set of frames.
That was the only bit I didn't like, the bit with All For One. And when you say it like that, it's like, yeah, that's convincing, but it still just gives me the impression of what goes on in My Hero Academia, where they feel the need to over-explain things, because I know that All For One hasn't seen everything that we've seen, and he's basically making the observations that we've obviously made from the very beginning of the series and how Koichi's developed as a character and everything, yeah. But then I was also disappointed at first when he was still running around and everything, and his, like, subconscious versions of Knuckle Duster and Pop are still talking to him and everything like that. But then you're exactly right, when he, like, flies up the building, and he jumps up and he lets out that last flurry of punches, and then, yeah, they're behind him, it's a glow and everything, it's really nice, it's really cool, and then he has that thought. And I realize this is why I think, actually, Vigilantes succeeds in maybe appealing to more people, possibly, than My Hero Academia could, because I have felt a deep connection with Koichi in, like, being an adult, and
now this we've had this discussion on Saturday Jump. This is the difference between Shonen the magazine and Shonen Plus, Jump Plus, the app. They skew towards, I wouldn't say that Vigilantes appeals to a wider audience. I think it's more niche. But we happen to be that niche. This is skews to an older audience.
But I think as well that flashback that we talked about, where Koichi looks back, it's like his friends aren't playing anymore. They've gone.
They all left. They all grew up.
But not only that, it's like, in a physical sense. And I remember being like that a little bit and realizing everyone was gone grown. It's like, someone who's like, trying to adjust more and more every day to like adult life.
They do, because they literally show him. He's literally, me and Steve were making this joke last night about the kid who's still playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards in high school. They literally have that scene in this chapter where he's got he's still wearing the All Might hoodie, and he's got the All Might cards, and his friends are looking like, you haven't dropped that yet. Like, you gotta move on. That dream is done. And you kind of see that Koichi has kind of been gaslit a bit into giving up his dream, and I'm like, bro, I don't want him to give it up. This is such horseshit. I'm actually tearing up. I don't want him to fucking give it up.
I wouldn't say that, because he did make the effort to go to a hero, like, tryout or something, or a school.
He did. They're kind of retconning that
and
a bit.
technically, Pop snatched that dream from him.
That bitch.
Yeah, that bitch. I hope she died in that hospital bed. Anyway, though, no, not really. But kind of. But, yeah, that's what I mean, though. It's like, I remember being that kid, and now I feel it being that adult, where I'm still striving to do, like, my voice acting thing and everything like that, with, like, success. You'll see soon. Can't talk about it at all, but you'll see soon. God damn it.
Very soon.
Hopefully.
Oh, boy.
I don't know how soon, but very soon, yeah. And I really resonated with this chapter, is what I'm saying. Like, both my kid self and my adult self really resonated. And then when, like you said, when it got to that ending bit where the lights go off and everything, and his friends aren't behind him, his subconscious and everything, and it's like that moment of realization, the light is like centered on his head, as if it's like drawing back into himself. So I get it now. I know that today is the day that dream comes to an end. And it made me think, oh my god, that was all good, because I didn't like it that it's kept on going with this running thing, because as I said, I feel good about this ending.
Yeah, but it was for this moment. It was for this moment. I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. Now I like this.
But I also looked at it, and I was also like, the way that he just comes, that number 6 comes in with this giant punch at the end, as it just destroys his hoodie. I was like, oh wait, was it in his head that he was doing so well? I doubt it. I think he was. Like, Knuckle Duster mode is too cool to be. No, because
and that's the reason why All for One is explaining, because he's seeing this. He's like, no, yeah, audience, this shit's really happening. But the reason why it's working is because he's having fun. Because he goes, what is motivating you? How are you achieving this power? And we're seeing he's having fun.
I could tell the instant I saw that the name of the chapter was All the Fun. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna feel something in this one probably.
Oh no.
Yeah, this shit's getting to me. I'm like, Koichi, don't give it up. Don't. Midoriya, give up one for all, but Koichi, keep being here. Even if you have to be a vigilante, even if the police keep chasing you, don't stop.
Keep being you, Koichi. Fuck.
Keep being you. You're good enough as you are. Come on, man.
Prediction for the next chapter: that hoodie is like torn asunder, scattered it's done. It's dead. And All Might's gonna have Koichi in his arms. He's gonna be like, "Fuck, kid, you're the coolest. Now stand the fuck back."
Ew, throws him in the garbage. Ew, you can't be better than Midoriya-kun.
He has been for a long time. Fuck.
Yeah, you can't ignore it. You can't deny it, All Might. Koichi's just better.
He's built different.
Hell yeah.
He's built different.
But yeah, no, it was a good chapter. I was really shaky on it at first, but then, as I said, the only bit that annoyed me was the All for One bit, and I can relate that to what my hero does far too much, especially in that Stars and Stripes fight. But no, it was a worth it chapter. Just for that bit alone, it made so much sense. Really good chapter. Once again, I'm really looking forward to seeing this story end.
Yeah, same. I don't want it to end, but it's going to be so good when it does. But Speaking of endings, I think we are definitely running up on our time. We definitely got to vamoose. Because Steena and I are starving. We had like breakfast and we skipped lunch. And we have a pizza waiting for us right now. And we gotta get that. But, I mean, how do we even get off this train? Because if I'm here, and Val's here, and Steena's here, then who the fuck is driving the train?
Oh, shit.
Oh,
no! Mind the gap as you exit our podcast safely. Rebuild of JoyCast is hosted by Ivan LeRoy and Valentine Stokes. LeRoy's written and directed works can be found on the JoyRide Entertainment YouTube channel and the soon-to-be-released original web manga, Paramedic. Val's dulcet tones can be heard in many of your favorite anime and web series, such as Ruby, Death Battle, Dragon Goes House Hunting, Lackadaisy Cats, and more. This episode was edited by Steena Carey, with YouTube version edited by Cody Rock. Music provided by Lofi Geek. Intro and outro narration by Steena Carey. Outro music composed by Michael Pejovich. Logo and visuals designed by Ivan LeRoy. Rebuild of JoyCast is produced by JoyRide Entertainment and Rock Voice Productions LLC, and made possible thanks to Patreon donations from generous listeners like you. This month's highest tiered Patreon producers are Mr. Host, Austin, and Gunnar Bear. If you would like your name shouted out at the end of each podcast, an invite to our private Discord to interact with fans, cast and crew, or early access to all of our content, be sure to check out JoyRide Entertainment's Patreon. Links provided in the description. Thank you for keeping JoyRide's engine burning.